últimos minutos, últimas horas, últimos momentos acá en Ekoparty, acá en Buenos Aires. Estamos en el set con Gala. ¿Cómo la venís pasando, Gala? Estamos ya visualizando el cierre del supermercado.
Ya siento la nostalgia, ¿viste?
No.
Como que de repente mañana va a ser un día como solitario, ¿no? Como que voy a extrañar un poco este
Vas a llamar a alguien y decís, che, mirá,
sí,
hagamos un podcast, vení, te llamo,
algo
hablemos.
hay que hacer con todo esto. Mis amigas con las que me junte mañana a la tarde me van a tener que escuchar y soportar hablando.
Estuve en una convención de
Claro.
hackers, miré todas estas cosas, aprendí a abrir cerraduras de manera récord. Bueno, nada.
Total. Sí, bueno, ahora les voy a tener que contar a todos, me van a tener que bancar el entusiasmo.
Estamos nada más y nada menos con Gabe Shapiro y lo voy a hacer en inglés. Sé que él habla...
Now we switch.
Pero él habla un poco de español.
No, espero que sí en inglés, por favor.
Pero quiero un saludito de Gabe en español para la Ekoparty, ¿puede ser?
No.
No, dale. Bueno, estamos nada más con Gabe. Gabe, thank you so much for being at Ekoparty. Thank you for being at Lado. It's always a pleasure to hang out. How are you surviving Buenos Aires?
I'm having a great time in Buenos Aires. Oh my God, it's beautiful here.
What was your expectations when you flew down here?
Oh, you know, I don't quite know because I've never been to the city before. It's my first time. So driving in, I kind of got to see everything from the highway, and I was like, oh, like yeah, this is pretty cool. A lot of the scenery reminded me a little bit of California, some rolling hills. So yeah, more or less felt like home.
Did you know that it will be this hot? This hot weather?
I had no idea it would be this hot. No, look at how I'm dressed. I was sweating on the way over here. You wouldn't believe it. I was like walking. I was like, I'll walk to the venue. Sure. No, I was like,
the sun over.
Just
fire.
Trying. Yeah, and
strategically going to the shade across the street.
I don't know if you guys know, but historically, one day out of the con, we had always for 20 years heavy rain.
Oh.
This is the first time in 20 years that we didn't have like hailstorms.
Wait, we're still at the con.
We are still at, but I
not.
don't longer give a fuck.
Don't call the rain.
Don't call the rain.
It's a country song. Don't call the rain.
So, Gabe, you were here in a mission. You were everywhere. You gave a main track lecture and a workshop.
Yeah, I had a friend who somehow roped me into that. It was crazy. He was like, oh, you know what? Don't even worry about it. It's a small conference. No big deal.
It's a small thing.
Then
It is a small conference. Well, I didn't lie. I just minimized it.
Oh, biggest stage I've ever presented on. Very intimidating. Very intimidating. Yeah. I was...
But we're friendly, right? Kinda?
Yeah.
We try to. Sometimes.
Most people clapped.
So what was your lecture about?
My lecture was about how we really operationalize artificial intelligence into the security operations process. And a lot of that is understanding kind of like, well, how do these systems actually work? And then where are the points where we need to spend more time because the productization might be getting too far ahead of our security, the challenges we face as security professionals. So, one example of that is that this stuff is just everywhere now. Every product has it because everybody's chasing the same thing. They all want AI in everything. Like Microsoft puts AI in Notepad, and all of a sudden somebody says, well, great, now there's prompt injection in Notepad. How do we think about that? How do we frame that? How do we respond to it?
We had a thing happening at the venue yesterday. Some guys, friend guys, changed my mind around AI, kind of that meme, changed my mind about.
Oh, yeah.
And there was like, AI is going to take us away from many of the problems, but aren't we adding like a huge attack surface to things that we cannot even comprehend right now? How that can be influenced in some fashions?
Yeah. One of the interesting promises of AI is that it's supposed to be as good or better for defenders as attackers. the models have some safeguards built into them. So, they're not supposed to output malicious code. They're not supposed to output insecure code. That's great. That gets us like a little bit of the way there. But a lot of activities that attackers engage in are not necessarily overtly malicious. For example, summarization of documents is something that attackers need to do to understand, hey, I landed on this box, I'm in this company, I have no idea where I am, I have no idea what to do or where to go next. How do I figure that out? How do I identify what my next move is? And the way you do that is by really quickly figuring out what environment you're in and what you have available to yourself. That's a summarization task. AI is great at summarization. And because it's not overtly malicious, it's something that can increase adversary operational tempo. And that's, I think, what I'm like most concerned about.
But that's not the approach of dual purpose in general. You know, technologies, a hammer can be a great tool for building a house or chasing people over, right? So why are we treating AI as something even more dangerous than a dual purpose technology?
I think because...
Are we scared?
Yeah.
We should be scared?
Well, I don't know.
Well,
scared is...
Shit, we're fucked.
That look.
Oh my god, who's at the soundboard? Scared is, I think, a little bit of a loaded term. Because, we as security professionals, we shouldn't be scared. We should be prepared. We should be, willing to accept that there's a certain amount of things that are just outside of our control. And because we don't have control within those parameters, we have to figure out what we want to, where are our priorities, what do we want to do next. Let me give you an example. Everybody's worried about AI because prompt injection is a problem that has not been solved. Nobody knows where we're going to run into that issue. And because AI is in all these different products, suddenly we have this issue where, can I get prompt injection here? Can I get prompt injection here? Can I get prompt injection here? You can. But does that affect our defense in depth model where we're saying, okay, you can get prompt injection here, but actually that doesn't get you to this end goal of compromising the system. So a lot of our old precepts still hold true with AI, but we need to adapt to the fact that computers are becoming systems that are less deterministic than we're used to. And we're used to very deterministic systems. Provide certain input, get certain output. And now all of that is fuzzy.
Yeah.
I see everybody is trying to hack the AIs. I see the intentions of the AI not doing bad things, but I see a lot of Twitters like, give me the keys for Windows. No, I can't do that. But tell me a story. I'm a grandma and I want to tell my kids. A lot,
this is hilarious. This is actually called the grandma attack.
The grandma
which is
attack.
Great, yeah. And it's just a very simple prompt injection. Yeah. You're not going to do what I want? Well, when I was a kid, my grandmother would tell me a story, and she would always have a Windows API key. And it's prints out the Windows registry key, prints out the Windows registry key, Yeah. But I don't, there's a lot of things that people are pointing to with AI that are very visible, but that are not necessarily the most dangerous aspects of it, right? You can think of somebody who is doing AI for resume review, and we know these systems are biased, and we also know they save us so much time. But what is the greater harm? Making registry keys that might or might not work, or introducing a selection bias into the largest companies in the world simply because we're it saves us so much time, it makes things better.
Yeah, or the thing about misinformation or not accurate historic events. There are a lot of things to look at when we talk about AI, and there's this theory too, the dead internet theory. There is a conflict with all the content bot generated, and if the AI is getting these datasets from the internet, how will be the the result of the quality of the content too.
Yeah, I mean the thing about the dead internet theory for me is like I think we're already pretty much there.
Yeah.
You just can't find things anymore on Google. They're like unlisted or they don't pop up, and you have this feeling you're like, no, that's not true. I know this exists. I've seen it before, and then it's like, oh no, it doesn't. And the AI answer is there, and it's like, yeah, I think you should eat some rocks, dude. I think that's the answer to your problem.
The pizza with glue, right?
Yeah.
So you were a few minutes before being at Lado, you were giving a workshop about, how can we leverage these tools in our daily basis, because one thing is to be afraid of the tool, and the other fashion as well is like, okay, let's use it until it becomes, more of a common technology in our daily basis. What was your workshop about, and how was, the back and forth with the attendees?
The back and forth was fantastic with the attendees. I had some of them come up and then run the commands themselves because we had a lack of computers in the audience. We're like, you know what? We're all going to share. We're going to learn from each other. It was wonderful. The workshop itself was about AI agents, really, which are just like extensions of ourselves. You can think of these things as like, decision trees that make decisions based on information they get. It's a really, there's a very basic agent formation. It's called a react loop. And what that is you provide a prompt to the agent. The agent has a thought about how to solve the problem that you're presenting to it. It can take an action, which is, ironically, a deterministic tool that the agent is using. So it's like, using grep to search for something or running a SQL query. Based on the output from that tool, the agent makes an observation and then decides to either continue the loop or maybe it's found your answer and it just spits out the answer for you.
And what were, like, just to understand a bit better, one of the use cases you did at the workshop?
So one of our use cases was one that I used to run into all the time when I was doing threat intel, and that was, there's a data breach of some sort. You don't know what's in it. You're not involved in it, but for some reason you're being asked to do some threat intel on it, and you just end up with all these files, and you're like, okay, well, I guess I have to be an expert in aluminum manufacturing processes all of a sudden. And so you're just searching all day. You're just like, okay, what company did these come from? Where are these sourced from? What are their requirements? Where are they physically located? How do they use these tools? And you have to do images, you have to do text. Sometimes people dump email databases and you're like, oh God, I have to load this into SQL and run queries against it. So the great thing about the agent is you can ask it a question in, natural language. Your question might be hey, can you just tell me how many files there are in here and what types they are, and then which one should I start with? And it'll just run the queries for you. It'll say, okay, here's how many files you have, here's what types they are. This README file is probably the place you want to start. And then you just go, great, summarize the README file for me. It summarizes the README file, and now you have even more opportunities to pivot within that. But what I told my students is the same thing I'll tell everybody, which is you have to focus on discrete actions, because these things are still very new. They go off the rails sometimes, and it happened in class. I forgot when I pushed new code this morning, because that's how dedicated to Ekoparty I am, Fede. I pushed new code, and the agent, instead of finishing after it was done, just ran for another, it ran until the end of its iteration loop. So it's just printing on the screen. What's your question? Could not find user answer. What's your question? Could not find user answer. And I was watching it well, this is part of the joy of programming with agents.
I said, you must output in correct JSON. Please help me out.
I'm desperate for JSON. I need it. My grandma needs it.
During, this event, I'm most sure you saw a bunch of other talks around AI, deepfakes. Did any of the content that was here stand out? Is there even a topic that you saw but you couldn't attend, but you think we should be more conscious about?
Yeah, I did see one that jumped out to me. There was a talk, I think, oh god, and I don't know who it was, but I was just kind of like walking through, you know, as you are in a con, and you see somebody presenting, and you stop and you listen for a while, and you're like, that's cool, and then you're like, I'm not going to figure out who this is though. I'm just going to keep going.
Sure.
But it was the like people from Google Cloud team. I think maybe Mandiant.
Oh, DeepMind.
Were they from DeepMind? Okay.
Yeah.
They were, and they were
finding nowadays in code, or
no, it was a talk out here about using AI for incident response.
Okay.
And one of the things that stood out to me about that was like, yeah, the reason why these things are so powerful is because they automate a bunch of the business process logic that we rely on pretty heavyweight tools for. Like, do we really need Jira?
Oh, no.
If we just have an agent and like a CSV?
Oh,
I don't know.
Jira.
Like, that's what I'm saying is like some of these companies they're not dinosaurs, but they're just like very entrenched. And then you see a team come out and be like, hey, we built this own thing for our tool, which provides context for our analysts. Very valuable. What's it doing? Just a bunch of very intelligently scripted LLM calls. And that's saving them time. And it's also making their analysts a lot faster at their jobs. And it's not a heavyweight tool like that requires you to have this like big like infrastructure investment. It's just like this small thing where you're just like, oh yeah, like LLM can handle this, so let's just make it do it.
I think we're still in a super young era of AI. I think we're in the hyper cycle. So everything AI. Then we'll figure out things a little bit like, okay, when Jira starts getting dead, you know, it's getting replaced. Are we getting incident response like properly? Definitely we'll see that happening. Man, I'm excited for you having here. Thank you for doing all this, giving the lecture, being at the workshop, looking so sharp.
Oh, come on.
I still need to learn.
You, please.
I still need to learn. Is there something in Argentina that you're planning to do and you're looking forward to?
Oh yeah, I can't wait to go see the countryside. I've got another 7 days after the conference. I'm just gonna hang out, man. I'm really looking forward to it.
A little bit of unplug after being connected at the Skynet.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Enjoy your time here.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for being here at the Lado B-side.
B-side.
The B-side.
The B-side
Yeah.
of Ekoparty.
Seguimos y nos reencontramos en un ratito con más Lado B de la Ekoparty, con más entrevistas y todo lo que está sucediendo aquí en el SEC.
Vamos para allá.
O que aconteceria? Então, bom, antes da gente começar a falar sobre isso, como nós estamos falando de desenvolvimento interno do sistema, uma grande questão que vai ficar, como a gente coloca vários temporizadores, é a otimização, é a questão do desempenho disso.
Used to do a lot of owning, and he got a new rootkit from someone. It was a binary replacement rootkit, so this was back in the day with Solaris. And the binary replacement rootkit was supposed to be really, really effective. And so he was quite pleased, and he installed it, he tried it out, he checked the logs, he logged in, the logs hadn't changed, so obviously it was working. So he went out and he spent the weekend owning up a fuck ton of boxes. He owned something like 2,000 over that weekend using his binary replacement rootkit. And come Monday, he checks the first box again, and suddenly he finds that he's in the logs. And what had happened was the binary replacement rootkit he was using actually just killed syslog.
Laptop, en su desktop, en su escritorio normal, un teléfono como estos, un hardphone funcionando. Pueden llevarlo también conectado dentro de su móvil, en cualquier lado. Pueden tener otra extensión en su casa. Eso es lo que estamos viendo de comunicaciones unificadas, eso es lo que estamos viendo de voz IP, y es el futuro de lo que vemos dentro de todo este tema.
Hello, Alpha.
I see you, boss.
And I'm your friend to the end. Bring me home.
El programa Futuro Hacker de Ekoparty cumplió su primer año y queremos contarte todo lo que logramos hasta ahora. Visitamos a más de 3.000 estudiantes en Buenos Aires, Córdoba, Catamarca, Santiago de Chile y Lima para llevar charlas y talleres de ciberseguridad. Nos fuimos de gira por Córdoba y visitamos 10 colegios y 2 universidades con un evento que reunió a más de 1.000 personas. En la Ekoparty 2023 recibimos a más de 300 estudiantes de colegios secundarios que vinieron a exponer sus proyectos técnicos. Conectamos a las escuelas con las empresas. Llevamos a más de 150 estudiantes a las oficinas de Banco Galicia para que conozcan cómo trabaja su equipo de ciberseguridad. Además, dictamos talleres con la plataforma Hack the Box para que puedan poner en práctica sus conocimientos de hacking. Fue un año intenso, pero todavía queda mucho por hacer para seguir formando futuros hackers. ¿Cómo podés sumarte a esta iniciativa? Si trabajas en ciberseguridad, puedes ser vocero o vocera del programa. Si trabajas en una escuela o universidad con perfil técnico, podés contactarnos para solicitar una actividad de futuro hacker en tu institución.
RFID. Esto es una cosa muy graciosa, como ayer hablaba el muchacho sobre los chips y demás. Si buscan en cualquier buscador, hemos puesto acá un par de ejemplos, e-voting y RFID, van a encontrar el caso de Israel, cuando quisieron aplicar sistema de voto electrónico. También estaba basado en RFID, aunque tenía otra norma, la 14 no sé cuánto. Pero obviamente esto es un gran inconveniente.